And now you have to ask yourself, how did 50 come into the possession of Diddy's footage for Diddy's documentary about Diddy? This is crazy because he's making a document himself, but then he took that documentary. Apparently what happened was that Diddy did go to jail and then he couldn't pay the cameraman.
Kurt Burrows has a lot of insight. And, this documentary is about people being able to tell their truth or tell their version of the story. And
For years, Katt Williams was often treated like the comic who said too much and too loudly. Audiences laughed, critics waved him off, and the moment passed. But that perception began to change in a major way after his appearance on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe, when the mood around his comments seemed to shift almost overnight. This time, people were not only hearing punchlines. They were paying attention to timing, tone, and the way his remarks appeared to echo broader conversations unfolding around Sean Combs. Suddenly, what once sounded outrageous to some viewers began to feel more like an early warning about power, control, and an entertainment machine built to keep uncomfortable stories out of sight. Then 50 Cent entered the picture, and the release of Sean Combs, The Reckoning sent the discussion into overdrive. The documentary pulled together long circulating footage, recurring themes, and a timeline that many viewers felt had been sitting in plain sight for years. But what really fueled the chatter was not only what made the final cut. It was what did not. Audiences quickly began pointing to the names, links, and storylines they believed were missing, and that absence sparked even more curiosity. In that atmosphere, Katt Williams no longer came across as someone speaking wildly. He came across as someone who may have spoken before the rest of the room was ready to listen.
Def Comedy Jam 25. It's good to see so many funny people together in one room, all wondering the same thing. Is Katt Williams gonna show up?
Shit, I'm nervous as hell right now.
Yeah. Oh, he's right there.
There he is.
I didn't know he was right there. Nigga, I would not have said that if I had said that. Yeah. I'm not used to quiet, introspective Katt Williams.
No. Well, let me ask you this. When have you ever seen this many heavy hitters all together at the same time, in the same room? Yeah.
Right.
Giving food to the poor. They was on the streets getting people off of drugs. So they knew Pac had that in them. So I definitely would say they was watching them.
Yeah, I mean, me hearing you break that down like that, you making some good points.
And not only that, Pac himself had disdain. He had hatred for cops. Well, crooked cops, let's say that. You know what I mean? Because the same thing, you got to understand, a lot of his music, he was going against the cops. And off his, even personal, when we around him, he just had a hatred for crooked cops. So one thing about Pac is that, but he used to always say, like, if it's a cop that really do his job and he's fair, we love him. But because he went through what he went through as a kid, you know what I mean? They used to have to, you know what I mean? They used to be in a building and then waking up and they got to put peanut butter all over the walls to hide the prints because the FBI is coming. They had to run to another house. So he grew up in that environment. You know what I mean? And then he got police brutality against him when he was crossing the street. And then he hear how they put a shotgun to his mother's stomach while she was pregnant. So if you hear this as a kid, you're going to naturally have a disdain or hatred towards the police. When he got older, he realized that all police not bad.
At first, the theory sounded straightforward enough. Some began asking whether Sean Combs was ever truly operating on his own, or whether there were deeper layers of influence surrounding him that had been quietly built over time. That question has only grown louder as more people revisit old interviews and public remarks with fresh eyes. Katt Williams once alluded to something that caught attention for a very specific reason. He did not just talk about power in general terms. He mentioned a number, 7. At the time, the comment felt mysterious and easy to dismiss, almost like another cryptic moment destined to fade into the background. Now, however, that same statement is being re-examined in a very different climate. Viewers and fans are going back through clips, searching for meaning, trying to identify who those untouchable figures might be and what role they may have played behind the scenes. What once seemed vague now reads as a breadcrumb in a much larger entertainment world conversation. And in a business where influence often works best when it stays invisible, even a single number can suddenly carry a lot more weight.
Prostitutes, having them come to different places and have sex. It was that too. Cause let me just tell you something, man. The feds ain't give a damn about Cassie getting her ass whooped in that hallway. Let's keep it a buck. We had several times that we've seen professional athletes smack and beat up their girls on camera. Jay-Z got his ass whooped by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name?
Right.
Solange. You got his ass. The feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your ass whooped. It's those other things that come under the guidelines that they care about.
Yeah, I mean, the tape comes out, man, and the way I seen it when the tape came out, it made it look like everything Cassie was accusing him of now has credibility.
Before we seen that tape, it was a young lady named Gina that accused Puff of punching her, kicking her, and totally assaulting her while she was pregnant. Not one news media other than I think Tasha K ran that. Nobody did nothing because he was protected by those people. He was still in good with those people. The federal government is just as guilty as Diddy.
Do you believe that media and people in general, or even people in high places, are scared of Diddy? And they're scared like how powerful he is and the things that he could do to them?
I don't think they are scared of him. I think they more so, they don't want him to embarrass their reputation and things that they've been known for. You understand? I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brand. That's why a lot of those rappers, that's why a lot of those athletes, they not saying nothing and they quiet as a church mouse. Because now they don't want to mess up their brand and they don't know what he's going to say. You ain't heard nothing from his biggest fan, Stevie J. He been quiet.
A lot of people are quiet. That's a fact. Well, you know, one of the things that happened right after Diddy was arrested is a long list of CEOs stepped down. What are your thoughts on that?
Half of New York City stepped down. So, did you know that, Cam?
I didn't know that, no.
Yeah. In the mayor's office, damn near everybody is stepping down. From fire chiefs to police chiefs to commissioner of this, commissioner of that, the board of education and everything. I'm like, yo, damn, all of them was on Diddy Island? I don't even know. But what I'm saying to you, allegedly, all these people are stepping down because they don't want to lose their pension. They don't want to be brought up in this whole Diddy mess. And they preparing. It appears to me that they preparing, if anything come out, that they could be already out and it won't be a big to do. They already someplace else. They already living a whole different lifestyle. So if their name came up, it won't be real big, great news because they're not in those positions anymore. That's what it appeared to me. They was getting out those positions so that it won't be a whole media race if they name come up in any of that stuff. They'd be like Kevin Lau, oh, the former CEO of, you know what I'm saying? It'll go away. But if he was still working there, then it'd be a big news and a big to-do.
One name that kept finding its way back into the conversation was Snoop Dogg. His public connection to Sean Combs was never exactly hidden, with years of shared appearances, interviews, and overlapping industry moments already well documented in the public eye. None of that serves as proof of wrongdoing, of course, but it has been enough to make some observers question why his name seemed absent from certain discussions. At that level of fame and access, people tend to notice when a connection is left untouched, and for many viewers, that kind of omission does not feel random. Then another surprising name began circulating through the online conversation: Kevin Hart. Fans started revisiting older clips, early career moments, and long-standing entertainment ties, not to draw final conclusions, but to better understand the larger landscape around the people involved. In an industry environment shaped by access and alliances, proximity becomes part of the story. And the closer someone appears to major power players, the more complicated it becomes to separate what is known, what is suspected, and what remains unspoken.
Unsolved.
Well, on all honestly, brother, you would have to ask him that. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm looking at it like that, then I know, those mansions are heavily guarded, one. Two, he wasn't getting the love that he would get. I don't think he getting love in LA. I don't know. He said he owns LA, he runs LA, he runs Miami, and he runs New York. So by him running LA, as he say he does, I would feel comfortable too. You know what I'm saying? If I knew for a fact that the person they got, and that was enough to call back all of everything, I would feel that comfortable too. But I wouldn't live there. I wouldn't go there. I'd do business and get on out of there if I was still afraid. I don't think he may have not ever been afraid. You understand? Because he never acted like he was afraid for whatever reason it was. I can't pinpoint it myself, man. The kid had me running around California like it was a joke, and I knew better than that. So by Mace saying that, I guess Mace was like probably putting the finger on Puff a little bit. Yo, dude, you know why you living out there now, because big murders was enough to make everything be smooth. Whatever that everything is.
Do you think Puffy know who is responsible for Biggie death? Do you think he got some inside info on who killed Biggie? Because the murder is still unsolved, so that is wild for him to be living in LA knowing that Biggie got killed in LA, knowing that the murder is still unsolved. That's crazy, man, when you think about it.
Well, if he's listening to the FBI, he knows what happened to Big's killer. He knows what happened to the people who was behind that. If he's listening to the FBI. If he's listening to the streets and everything like that, still in all, they wanted him just as much they wanted Big. If so much they wanted Big. We knew that Big was having flack from the dog pound cats and maybe a few dudes at Death Row, or maybe not. Puff was having flack from the dog pound, I guess, and he was trying to straighten that out. That's probably the reason why him and Snoop went to that thing with the Steve Harvey show. But anyway, I think Puff was just trying to air some stuff out. So he knew Big was leaving his label. He knew Big was starting his own label, having his own thing. So he was trying to straighten out as much as possible so that none of that shit that was happening with the Junior Mafia would go over to Bad Boy and their artists when they start their new thing.
Then there is Maze, perhaps one of the quietest figures in this entire conversation. His history with Sean Combs has long been public, marked by contract disputes, personal distance, and a relationship that has been dissected for years in music and entertainment circles. Because of that history, many expected him to say something once new conversations began building momentum. Instead, he stayed quiet, and that silence became its own headline for people watching closely. In moments like this, what is not said can sometimes feel just as revealing as any public statement. The more people pull at these threads, the more the issue starts to look larger than any one celebrity. What emerges is the image of a broader system, one where influence can shape who gets seen, who gets protected, and who is ever forced to answer difficult questions. When a story grows too powerful, too interconnected, or too dangerous to handle directly, it does not always disappear. Sometimes it is simply trimmed down, softened, or carefully reframed until the sharpest edges are no longer visible.